Hi viewers. Today we're making sun-dried tomatoes. Sun-dried tomatoes are so versatile they will transform your salads, pasta, gravy, pizza, and many more. They are also nice to have on the table. You can have them whole or shredded, cooked in food or just as they are. Jam tomatoes are the best type to make sun-dried tomatoes. Jam tomatoes are oval in shape. They're also known as Roma. They are known to have a long shelf life and to be relatively more resistant to bacteria. You need that because it takes a while to dry a tomato. Tomatoes are typically cut in half to make sun-dried tomatoes, which is what I did. But you may want to hollow out the contents of your tomatoes. Or cut your tomatoes in quarters or even slice them if the sun is not hot enough where you are. It all works out just fine. Now place your cut tomatoes on a wide tray where you can spread them. I'm using a large stainless steel pot lid. Spread salt on the tomatoes. It helps if you have a mesh food cover or a veil food cover. It protects your tomatoes from flies. Keep your tomatoes in a sunny spot that doesn't get shade throughout the day. Otherwise, you may have to move your tomatoes to chase the sun. Bring your tomatoes into the house when the sun is about to set. In the morning, put them back on the tray and place them on the sunny spot. Day 1 and day 2 were not so encouraging. I started placing my tomatoes before the fan, for 2 hours in the evening. I still took them out to the sun every morning. At the end of day 5, my tomatoes were completely dry and looking good. This is what my 14 tomatoes that filled the lid now looked like. It is estimated that 1 kilogram of fresh tomatoes will make 100 grams of dry tomatoes. Well, I did taste quite a few. They're irresistible, and they are my handiwork. Now, bring 2 cups of water and 1/4 cup of white vinegar to a boil. Add your dry tomatoes and boil for 5 minutes. Boiling ensures that our tomatoes absorb the flavors when you preserve them in a glass jar. Otherwise, there won't be any exchange in the glass jar, and the tomatoes would remain dry. Vinegar adds a tangy flavor and helps with preservation. Keep your boiled tomatoes in a food sieve overnight or until all water has dripped out and your tomatoes are nice and moist, not wet. Another way of doing this is to keep the boiled tomato between 2 dry dishcloths. The next morning my tomatoes had a nice velvety texture, like this. Now, to preserve your tomatoes in the glass jar you're going to need olive oil, thyme, oregano. I added my homemade chili oil which is also on this channel, bay leaf, and garlic. You can use any spice and herbs that you like, as long as it tastes and looks good on tomatoes. Mix all your dry ingredients together and chop your garlic into chunks. Throw 1 or 2 chunks of garlic in your jar. Line the bottom of your jar with a thin layer of your dry herbs and spices. Follow up with a layer of tomato, covering the bottom of your jar. Repeat this process of layering until your jar is full. This is to make sure that all your tomatoes can evenly absorb the flavors. And each tomato you may remove from the jar will look good from direct contact with the herbs and spices. Not only that, but glass jars with preserved food inevitably add to the aesthetics of your dining table and kitchen counter. You may even add a twig of fresh rosemary in your jar. It always looks good, over and above bringing flavor and aroma. Here I added bay leaf. I added just a little of my homemade chili oil because I like chili flavor and aroma. Fill your jar with olive oil. Work with a spoon to make sure that all your tomatoes are submerged in olive oil. Close your jar airtight and keep it in a cool place. In a week or so, the oil will start to take on the color of tomatoes. The flavors would have exchanged between the tomatoes, oils, herbs, and spices in the jar. You may enjoy your very own homemade sun-dried tomato. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, like, share, and comment.